living and non-living things. Living means biotic, which possess life. Bio means life. Biotic means possessing life, having life. Abiotic. Abiotic means absence of life. So, what are these abiotic and biotic? There is a list, right? Abiotic are categorized into two, that is climatic factors and adaptive factors. Climatic content, climatic means all the factors which describe whether or climatic conditions in a particular area like rain, water, wind, temperature, humidity, cloud cover, sunlight, all that are climatic. Adaptive factor means soil, minerals, pH, topography, water, moisture content, mineral content, salt content, all of the soil, all these are nothing but, and even minerals and salts and water and all that are nothing but the soil particles, boulders, all in the water or on the soil is nothing but adaptive factors. Similarly, biotic are categorized into three depending on the basis of energy, from where they take energy and to which level they give energy. They are again categorized into three, that is producers which produce energy, consumers which consume energy, and reducers or decomposers which convert the energy and consume the energy. Right? Producers are autotrophs. Auto means self-feeders. Consumers means heterotrophs. That means feed on others, and they are again categorized into four. That is primary consumers called herbivores. That is directly plant-eating animals. Then secondary consumers are primary carnivores. They are flesh-eating animals, and tertiary consumers are large carnivores. They are eating both primary and secondary consumers, that is herbivores and primary carnivores. And then tertiary quaternary carnivores are the carnivores which feed on the large tertiary carnivores consumers, primary carnivores like secondary consumers, and herbivores like primary consumers. All these three will be eaten up by the top carnivores or quaternary carnivores. And out of them, few are called as omnivores that feed on both plants and animals like humans and bear. Then decomposers are also called as saprotrophs because they feed on the dead sapro, right? And even they are called reducers because they reduce the waste accumulating in the environment and convert them into the nutrients, micro and macronutrients, which are added to the soil as a source of energy for the next generation of plants and animals. So this is decomposers, right? So this is the structure of an ecosystem. And what is the concept? The concept is simple. The producers or consumers like primary consumers or secondary or tertiary or quaternary consumers or even decomposers. Nothing can live on their own without sharing materials, right? Materials like the plants need materials from soil, minerals and water, light, sunlight, all that. So they depend on the biotic. Similarly, the consumers depend on producers for energy. They are interdependent within the biotic. Similarly, decomposers depend on producers and consumers interdependent. Similarly, plants depend on the content of soil nutrient, which in turn depend on the decomposers, which add nutrients to the soil. So this is dependency. Biotic depend on abiotic, abiotic depend on biotic, and within biotic there are interdependency. Consumers depend on producers, and decomposers depend on both producers and consumers. And then within abiotic, interdependency. Biotic, climatic, and adaptive depend on each other. Like the depending on the climatic factor, the soil condition, the topography will change. Depending on the topography, the weather conditions will be changed. Like hill stations, that is a hill station topography adaptive factor changes the climate. The climate will be cool and very good, right? Pleasant. That is climatic factor. So this is interdependency. That is function of an ecosystem, right? And the next one is food chain. Energy flow. How does energy flows in an ecosystem? We discussed this. The primary source of energy in the environment is sun. From sun, producers will generate the energy and they pass it on to the consumers, and from there the energy goes to different levels of consumers, that primary to secondary, secondary to tertiary, tertiary to quaternary, and at every level the amount of energy decreases, right? It decreases because Producers generate energy, they consume some energy, and they pass some energy to the next level. And in the transfer of energy, some amount of energy will be lost to the environment in the form of heat. So definitely producers will have more energy than consumers, and primary consumers will pass the energy to the secondary. So primary consumers will have more energy than secondary consumers, so on and so forth. And finally, whenever a producer or a consumer is dead, the decomposers will do the conversion of energy from them, dead body, to add it to as nutrients, micro and macro, to the soil. And that is how the energy enters again into the soil as a nutrient pool. From there again it goes to the same cycle, that is plants will absorb and then consumers and then decomposes again soil. This is a cyclic flow of energy in an ecosystem which is unidirectional, and it will never occur reversely. It is unidirectional and it is continuous, right? So this is energy flow in an ecosystem. And how does this energy flow? In the form of food, what we call as food chain, right? So flow of energy in the form of food from organism to organism or trophic level to trophic level is called as food chain. And there are two types of food chains in an ecosystem: grazing type and detritus type. Grazing means which starts from the grazing plant, that is the plants absorb sun's energy and they convert that into carbohydrates, and which will be eaten up by the primary consumers like herbivores, which are again eaten up by the secondary consumers like primary carnivores, and then eaten up by the tertiary consumers like large carnivores, and then eaten up by quaternary consumers like top carnivores, right? So this is what grazing type of food chain. And whenever a plant or an animal is dead, the second detritus type of food chain will start. That is, dead material is the primary material. From there, the next bacteria, fungus, protozoans, and other insects and the macro insects, and then the predators like scavengers, crow, birds, all that will feed on them, and they excrete. That excreta adds nutrients to the soil, and this is how the detritus type of food chain will go. Then always it is unidirectional, but it is not the same flow. That is, a primary will be eaten up by secondary, secondary will be eaten up by tertiary, tertiary will be eaten up by quaternary. No, sometimes there is intermittent food chains within a food chain, which are called as interconnections of food chain, like food web, right? So till here we have discussed. So what is importance of knowing this, whether and how can we understand that yes, this food chain is very good in a forest? Say suppose if suddenly in a forest all the herbivores are dying. Why they will die? Because there is no producers plants, right? How could we know? Till the end of that ecosystem should we wait, and once it is lost can we rehabilitate it again? No, it is not possible, or it takes a lot of time. So we should know whether whenever an ecosystem is there, we should understand that okay, whether it is in a sustainable phase, or it is getting into a declining phase, or it will get degraded or vanish soon. How could we judge? How could we know that whether a particular ecosystem is in good condition or no? Right? Whether it is going softly or balanced, or it is imbalanced. That can be understood by describing the ecological pyramid of an ecosystem. Then what is ecological pyramid? It is the graphical representation or a pictorial representation of biomass or bioproductivity of an ecosystem, right? Is called as ecological pyramid. These are also known as trophic pyramids or Eltonian pyramid, developed by Eltonian. Energy pyramids are sometimes called food pyramids. So what is this? This is a graphical representation or a design to show the biomass of or bioproductivity at each trophic level or food level in a given ecosystem is called as ecological pyramid. What is this ecological pyramid? It is the structure of four. A pyramid shape will be there. We take the shape of a pyramid and we put four levels in that, four trophic levels, food levels, like produces herbivores, carnivores, and top carnivores, large carnivores and top carnivores, right? So what we are putting? We are putting them depending on the different type of pyramids, like pyramid of number, pyramid of energy, pyramid of biomass. Depending on the number, right, we need to put them. We have to put which one is more in number at the base of the pyramid, like producers or carnivores or herbivores or large carnivores. Second, smaller will be, lesser will be next to that, and still lesser top, still lesser on the top, whole top, right? This is how we prepare a pyramid. So small, the topper one which occupies less space, that means it is having less in number, or less in energy, or less in biomass, so on and so forth. So four pyramids represented by Roman letters, right? Roman numbers will be taken. The first one is producers, second herbivores, second large carnivores, and then top carnivores, right? So that is how we can depict and we can understand what is the state of uh, ecosystem, whether it is declining or it is flourishing or it is very good balance, right? We can understand. I will explain it once again. Let us see first of all what is ecological pyramid of number. Right. We need to put producers or consumers or herbivores or top carnivores, whichever are more at the base. How can we take this? We need to study an ecosystem. What is the best ecosystem example? We have a city called Hyderabad, or we can have a forest. Which one is the best ecosystem? Students, are you there with me? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Right. So, which one is the best example
Forest.
of a forest? Absolutely true, my dear. Why? Because if you take a city, it is called rather a community, which we developed it, we modified it. We want, I mean, we keep the trees wherever we want, like either the side of the roads, and then we remove the trees whenever they grow wherever, right? So, because we need to acquire that land and do the construction activity. So it is we design the total land over there to lay the roads, railway tracks, and the houses and industries, and we will not allow any other living being which is not suitable for our life, and we will allow only domestic animals. And we even manage them. We don't allow them to live on their own freedom. We feed them and we take the benefits out of them. So it is a human controlled community rather, right? Humans are the most, I mean, powerful species over there in a community, dominant species, more in number. So this is not a perfect ecosystem. It's a modified, human designed, right? Whereas a forest is a natural environment wherever animals grow, plants grow, trees grow. They grow on their own. They take care of themselves and they grow, and they, I mean, they live an independent life, right? So nothing like human individual over there. So we need to take a best example of a forest and study ecological pyramid of number and put which one ever is more in number. So in a forest, which one will be more in number? Plants, producers, or herbivores, plant-eating animals, or large carnivores like fox, cat, jackal, wolf, hyena, cheetah, leopard, puma. All these are top carnivores like bear, lion, tiger, so on and so forth. Which one will be more in number in an ecosystem? Okay. Plants, absolutely good. Very good, my dear. Absolutely sure. Plants. How we should justify this? Why should we agree that when some friend of yours and I say the plants, why should we agree? I will give you a simple logical example. We can practically observe that. If you just check out any living being, we compare with the producers and the last one top carnivore. Right, top carnivore like lion or a tiger. How many they live in group? A tiger generally live in single, and a lion live in a family of 20, 30, or 40. What do you call the area where a tiger lives? Its own area in a forest. It is called as territory of a tiger. Nani territory antaru, right? And it will be around 10 kilometer circumference area to 25, 30, 40, 50 kilometers area కూడా ఉంటుంది, depending on the size of the forest. Right. So we take minimum. Minimum will be 10 kilometer circumference area anukondi, right? So one tiger lives in that, or else One family of lion lives over there, like nearly 30, 40, 50, 100 lions, right? Or a cheetah family, or a leopard group of leopard families, like 100 or 200 leopards, or 100 leopards and 100 cheetahs and other hyena, wolf, jackal, everything becomes 1,000, we can say, or 1 lakh, we can even say, not even thousands, right? So you can say 10,000 or 50,000 animals are living over there, large carnivores. How many herbivores live? Say more than 1 lakh or 2 lakhs. How many plants live in that? Right? Plants, trees, greenery. More infinite, we can say. We can't just count them, because if there is a grassland, small, say, 1 acre of grassland is there in that 10 kilometer square land area, can we count the number of grass plants? Absolutely no, right? So the trees and plants will be enough number, right? So surely we can say yes, producers are more in number in a forest ecosystem, so they come at the pace. Next one is herbivores, definitely plant eating animals. So they come the next, and then the carnivores, and then the large carnivores. So absolutely always a ecological pyramid of number will be upright. That is, producers at the base, primary carnivores, secondary consumers, tertiary and quaternary consumers on the top. So that is how the ecological pyramid of number will be there. It is always upright. This is for an ideal ecosystem, when ecosystem is perfectly working. Next is ecological pyramid of energy, right? Which one will contain more energy here? The producers are carnivores. You can say a tiger will have more energy than a grass. Right, we are not talking about one tiger with one grass. We are talking about a group of large carnivores like tigers, or even lions, right, which live in the top carnivore, with the producers, that is all the green plants in the forest, right? All the green plants in the forest, whichever is there, is called as a producer trophic level, the food level of producers, right? They are producers. So which one will have more energy? Definitely producers. Why? Because we have already discussed here in energy resources. It is the energy produced by the producers which is transferred to the consumers. So if they have less energy, how can they pass less energy? More energy. If I have 100 rupees in my account, I can give somebody either 100 or less than 100, but not more than 100, because that is not there in my account. So definitely producers can give only less than what they have, but never not more than what they have. So producers will have more energy compared to the primary carnivore consumers like herbivores, or primary carnivores like say primary carnivores, and secondary consumers like primary carnivores, or tertiary and quaternary consumers like top carnivores. Right, you can see it here. Producers have got 100% of energy, and they give past 10% to the primary consumers like herbivores, and a part of it will be lost and a part of will be utilized by the growth of producers metabolic activity. Similarly, from primary consumer to secondary consumers, 1% of energy transfer will occur, and rest will be utilized and lost to the external environment. Similarly, here 0.1 and then 0.01 will be passed to the next level. So this is how even the ecological pyramid of energy will be upright. Then the next one is ecological pyramid of biomass. What is biomass? First of all, bio means life, mass means weight, living mass. Living weight, that is the total weight of a living being, either it a plant or a tree or an animal or a living being, human being. Our total weight is called as our biomass, right? So we whose weight will be more, whether plants or animal weight. Total number of animals are less in number, whereas plants are more in number, and trees will be very large. Their weight will be very huge weight, tons. The trees weigh in tons in the forest, right? They may be growing since ages, 100, 200, 400, 600 years. But animals die after say 20 years, 30 years, or 100 years, right? And the trees live more than 100 and 200 and 400 years also. So they grow big, large, huge trees will be there, which move weighs more than tons, right? So huge. To take the total greenery and weigh them, it will be more than lakhs of tons will be there, and total animals definitely, right, less than this. So surely, the biomass of a terrestrial ecosystem will be more of producers. Next is herbivores, next carnivores, next large carnivores. You can check here. The producer's weight will be 100,000 kgs. This is just an example. So that herbivores will be around 100 kgs, then carnivores 10 kgs, and top carnivore 1 kg. Right. This is approximate, right, comparison. So this is what ecological pyramid of biomass. Similarly, the ecological pyramid of biomass of an aquatic ecosystem will be always inverted. Inverted. It is always inverted. That means the producers will be less in number. They take the top place of a pyramid. Then the secondary consumers, that is herbivores, will be slightly more biomass. Then the large carnivores or top carnivores will be huge biomass, right? What are the large carnivores in an aquatic ecosystem? You can take a whale, a shark, or a crocodile, right? All that. And then, what are the producers in an aquatic ecosystem generally? Producers will be algae, phytoplanktons, and aquatic plants, right? So their number, I mean, their number will be more, but their bioproductivity or biomass will be less compared to the large carnivores. Check out the size of a whale, and if we have a family of a whale in an ocean, that will be huge weight, right, compared to the aquatic producers like algae, right? So that is why always the aquatic ecosystem pyramid of biomass will be inverted, right? Now tell me, do you have any doubts? Okay, if no, just now we said that here, if these have got more biomass, more number, so more energy will be there and they can satisfy the energy requirement of all these levels. Energy flows from here to here, here to here, here to here. But this is how the energy satisfaction of an ecosystem and different trophic levels will be met. But when here the biomass is less, how the energy requirement of these large animals will be met with less amount of biomass? This answer is simple logic, my dear. The smaller the living being, the smaller the lifespan, the greater the reproductive potential, right? So what are these? These producers are like algae, like diatom, Spirogyra, Euglena, right? They are unicellular organisms, and their growth, their lifespan will be less, like 2, 3, or 1 week, right? Or 2 weeks. That's it. Then they will die again, or even a fraction of second. How we can say fraction of second? How do these cells grow? What is the growth? How do we represent growth in bacteria or in algae, which are unicellular? How do we represent growth? Okay, how trees grow? How we grow? Humans grow in size, right? Trees also grow in size. Humans grow in size. But how do these microorganisms, bacteria, algae, fungus, will grow? They grow in number, not in size, right? They become more numbered. That is how we represent the growth. So how does they grow? I mean, number. How do they reproduce? Binary fission. That is, one cell becomes two cells, and then two becomes four. Four becomes eight. 8 becomes 16. 16 becomes 32. 32 becomes 64. Right. This is how they divide. Right. How do large animals reproduce? Like whales, they reproduce once in 10 years, right? And 6 or 7 times in a life they reproduce. That means a couple of a whale can give birth to the young one, 10 years, one young one, right? And in their life cycle, 6 or 7 or 10 maximums, right? Whereas these bacteria cells, small algae, they divide in seconds, microseconds, or a maximum we can say a second. 1 second they grow, right? In 1 second, one bacteria becomes two. The second, two becomes four. Third second, four becomes eight. Fourth second, eight becomes 16. Fifth second, 16 becomes 32. And the sixth second, 32 becomes 64. Right, and seventh second 64 becomes 128, and then 256, right? So that is how they grow. They multiply at a faster rate. Say today, I'll explain with one more logical example. Say today there is 100 kgs of producers in a pond or a lake or an or the ocean, right? Which can supply good amount of energy to the next level of organisms in the trophic level, that is herbivores, carnivores, and large carnivores. When 99 kilos have been eaten, right, they are satisfied with the energy demand, but tomorrow only 1 kg will be there. All these animals will die. Wait, tomorrow, till tomorrow we have 24 hours and 1 kg is still there. This 1 kg divides into 2 kgs within 1 second, right? One cell weighs, so total number of cells which are there weighing 1 kg means they become double, that means 2 kgs. Second they become 4 kgs. Third second they become 8 kgs. Fourth second they become 16 kgs, and fifth second they become 32 kgs, and seventh second they become 64 kgs. Then next second they become 128, 256, and 512, so on and so forth. So they are just within second they are becoming double. That is their quality. Their division rate, their division potential, their reproductive potential is very high. So that is how they divide and they survive. And they within next 24 hours again 100 kilos are there, or more than 100 kilos is available, which is satisfying that living system in that aquatic ecosystem. So this is what ecological pyramid of biomass will be upright in an aquatic ecosystem. Still, ecosystem will be sustainably functioning, right? It is never imbalanced, because the smaller the living being, smaller its lifespan and greater its reproductive potential, right? So now why we need to discuss this? I mean, why? What is the importance of knowing ecological pyramid? Say here, if the number or biomass of these producers is less and herbivores are more, that means producers come on the second and herbivores come on the first. Will that ecosystem sustain? That means herbivores, they get enough energy? No, soon they eat up all the grass and producers, and then the small amount is growing and huge number of herbivores are there, and they won't get satisfied with the energy demand and they will die. Once the herbivores die, the carnivores don't find food, and they, in search of food, they come out of the forest, right? Getting attracted by the sounds in the villages, right? And what people do, they think that these animals came in search to attack them, and they kill them, catch them and kill them. This is what happening nowadays, isn't it? Why? Because these animals are unable to find enough food in the forest, because ecological balance is not maintained. That can be understood by drawing an ecological pyramid of any ecosystem in any forest at any time. We can know whether that ecosystem is balanced or not, or it is getting it will sustain or it will be lost in near future, right? So this is what we can understand. This is ecological pyramid. The next one is ecological succession. One more topic we will take up, right? So what is ecological succession? Ecological succession means conversion of one type of ecosystem into another type of ecosystem. What is an ecosystem? ఒక పాండ్ ఉంది, దట్ ఈస్ అ పాండ్ ఎకోసిస్టమ్, రివర్ ఎకోసిస్టమ్, గ్రాస్లాండ్ ఎకోసిస్టమ్, ఫారెస్ట్ ఎకోసిస్టమ్, రైట్? డెజర్ట్ ఎకోసిస్టమ్, evergreen forest ecosystem, deciduous forest, mountain ranges ecosystem. All these are different ecosystems. So conversion of one type of ecosystem into another type of ecosystem is called as ecological succession, right? How does it happen? I have an example, simple example. I will show it here. Say this is a water body for the first time, right? First time when the depression has occurred on the land and the rain has collected water and the water started accumulating here, right? It will be totally water, nothing is there in that. After some time, like a couple of seasons, the water starts evaporating and the water quantity decreases, and again the rainwater will come and recharge of the water will occur, and it is continuously filled. But along with the rainwater, the soil particles, other materials which are there on the surface of the earth will flush into that water pond, and will start collecting at the base. That is, sediment will form at the base, right? And as the sediment is formed, that sediment may collected from, I mean, different seeds from different soil surface, so that seeds will germinate and will grow into aquatic plants. Then we can see that aquatic plants have grown in this area and water is still there. And as the water gets evaporated and new water is getting, I mean, joined, flowing into the river, it adds new, the sediment, silt అంట మనం the dams problems లో discuss చేశాం మనం, right? We discussed the silting of a dam, that is getting deposited with the soil particles which flow along with the river and decreases the water storing capacity. Same thing occurs here, and a good amount of silt and sediment will start collecting, which contains high nutrient and minerals, and even the plant sources like seeds and other, and plants grow in very good number and size, and variety of species will grow, and water quality quantity will start decreasing. After some time, even the small amount of water retains, and all this becomes a muddy. Muddy means semi-solid water and soil material filled in this lake, which is having enough good nutrient value, nutritional minerals and all that, other than the rich fertile soil, other than the soil beside that lake, right? What do you call this stage when the water and the soil is mixed and it is semi-solid? We call that as a quagmire. Quagmire అంటే ఏంటి? తెలుగులో ఊబి అంటారు, హిందీలో దల్దల్, right? It is a semi-solid, and all the good plants, it looks like a swamp, right? Delta swamp. So all the plants, very good variety of plants and trees will start growing on them. After some time, even that water will get evaporated, so totally it becomes a solid mass of land containing high nutrient rich value. It will start allowing the plants to grow very well, and even a good number of trees will grow over there. Once good trees are growing, greenery, that will attract the animals, plants, birds and all that, and they will join, and it becomes a well developed forest ecosystem, right? It was earlier a water ecosystem, now it turned into a forest ecosystem. This will occur for decades, my dear. It may take 30, 40, 50 or 100 years also. Like we have Run of Kutch. Earlier it was a very good fertile soil. Due to waterlogging and salinity, it has turned into a salinated soils and desert lands, right? Even Gujarat, we know that. Yeah, please let me know any doubts. Chapama, ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయా? ఏం లేదా? సరే. Even we know that Gujarat area, right? I mean, earlier Lord Krishna established a city over there, and then that got submerged in water. Now it is a water body. Earlier it was a fertile city, right? Soil and city. Even Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Earlier it was a very good soil, and when the bomb blast occurred, it turned into a deserted land, right? So that is human activities also changing the ecosystem, right? Even our people, earlier olden lakes were covered with the soil and land, earth material, and then converted into land, and people do the construction activities on that, and it causes problem like flooding, right? So that is what ecological succession, right? The next is types of ecosystems, right? What are ecosystem is a complete system which has its own habitat, and it can sustain in itself, like gain of energy and throwing of energy and conversion of energy from producers, abiotic to biotic, right? Producers to consumers and decomposers. That is called as an ecosystem. So we have different types of ecosystems in our environment. These ecosystems are primarily categorized into two, that is natural ecosystem and man-made. Artificial and man-made ecosystem. How we can say man-made? Do we make trees? Do we make water? Do we make soil? No, we don't make anything, but we modify the natural environment. In a forest, just now I said forest is a natural independent ecosystem, whereas city we develop. The trees are growing naturally, they are taking natural minerals and water and air and light, but We maintain them, we crop them, we cut them, we trim them, we place them wherever we want, we remove from the place where we don't want, right? So that is becomes an artificial environment with natural materials, we modifying and we giving energy to them periodically. Like an aquarium is an artificial ecosystem, we give the food to the fish, we select the type of fish, we give the fresh water, we maintain the quality of water by putting filters and all that. So it is natural materials are taken and we maintain, we make a ecosystem like a park, a landscape, a zoological park, a botanical gardens, a cultivated field, a city, a village, right? An aquarium, a pond which is done by us, like a big swimming pool pond, right? All these are nothing but artificial ecosystems which are man modified or human modified ecosystems. We maintain and modify them. Then natural ecosystems are of two types. One is terrestrial and one is aquatic. Terrestrial means land ecosystem like grassland, forest land, tundras, deciduous forest, mangrove forest, evergreen forest, rainforest, right? All this. Then aquatic ecosystems. Aquatic means water. Water ecosystem. These are again categorized into two: freshwater ecosystem and marine water ecosystem. Right? Freshwater ecosystem and the marine. Freshwater and enti, the water will be fresh, right? Good quality fresh water, and marine means ocean and sea water, which are salt water. Marine means salt water containing high salt concentration. We discussed under hydrosphere. Examples: oceans and seas. Again, this fresh water are categorized into two. That is, the flowing water bodies called as lotic water bodies and stagnant water bodies called as lentic water bodies. Flowing ante rivers and streams, they flow, right? So they are lotic or flowing water bodies. Lentic ante lakes, pools, ditches, marshes, swamps, right? All these are lentic water bodies, that is ponds and lakes, right? Which are stagnant water bodies. They are lentic water bodies. And then in our syllabus, we will study few of examples of an ecosystems, how they, what are the type of living beings or structure of an ecosystem. Like we take first is the aquatic, only aquatic are there, not terrestrial. Only we take aquatic ecosystems like first one is lentic ecosystem, pond and lake ecosystem, stagnant water ecosystem, right? What are that? What is the structure of an ecosystem? What was the structure? Structure and structure of an ecosystem means biotic, abiotic. Within abiotic, climatic and adaptive. Biotic produces, consumes and decomposes. Consumers primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary. This is structure. Then what is the structure of an aquatic ecosystem like pond and lake? What are the biotic, abiotic components present in a pond and a lake? Climatic and edaphic. Climatic factors ఏంటి? Light, wind, rain, right? Sunlight, cloud cover. All these are there, right? Absolutely. It is also part of the environment. So they are there. How about edaphic factors? Soil, minerals, right? They are also there. Like water is there. Minerals in the water are there. Salts in the water are there. At the base, there is soil, right? Sediment, rocks are there. All these are nothing but edaphic factors. So, yes, a pond or a lake contains abiotic like climatic and edaphic factors. How about the biotic producers? Do we have any producers in a lake? Yes, absolutely. You can see on the screen different types of aquatic plants, algae, phytoplanktons. Phytoplanktons ఏంటి? They are plant-like organisms which can what we call plant-like organisms which can prepare their own food material. They won't eat any other organism, but they are unicellular plant-like organisms which have got chlorophyll and prepare their own food. Like diatoms, Euglena, Spirogyra, they are phytoplanktons, right? So they are small unicellular plant-like organisms. And then aquatic plants like hyacinth, hydrilla, hydra, water lily, all these are different types of aquatic plants are there. Yes, producers are there. How about consumers? Primary consumers, small zooplanktons will be there. That is unicellular living beings which feed on other living beings like bacteria, right? Bacteria, protozoa, all these unicellular, small unicellular organisms, Hydra, Hydrilla, different types of bacteria, and all that will be there. Then the secondary consumers like larvae, insect larvae, right? Like mosquito larvae, insect larvae, all these tadpoles, larvae will be there. Then secondary, the tadpoles and small fishes, right? Then the large fishes, then the crocodiles, snakes, and all that top carnivores. Everything will be there. How about decomposers? Are there any decomposers in the aquatic ecosystem? Yes, bacteria is there, fungus is there, and even at the bottom there are like beetles or snails, shells, and other starfish, and all that will be there, right? So all that is nothing but are the decomposers which are there. So that is the aquatic pond and lake ecosystem, aquatic ecosystem, right? So that is structure of an ecosystem. Then the lake, river, and pond, stream ecosystem. What are the living beings? Biotic and abiotic. Abiotic, again the same, wind, climate, right? Climatic factors like wind, rain, light, cloud, everything will be influencing and it is exposed to that. Then by edaphic factors like soil, water, minerals, everything is also there. Then the biotic produces same, the plants, aquatic plants, algae, and even the phytoplanktons are also there in a river and a stream, right? So that is also there. Then what is the difference between a stream and pond and a river and a stream, pond and lake? Here the plants are either growing at the bottom of the lake holding the substratum base, or they are growing floating on the water. They float. More plants are there which are floating on the water. You can see the lake water will turn into green color because algae is growing in them, floating on the surface. Whereas here in a river there won't be much floating plants. Why? Because water will be always flowing and it will be slightly clear water. So plants grow at the bank of the river holding the base, right? At the either side of the river at the base, the plants are growing more, not in the water. The water will be fresh water. That's the only difference. And how about the consumers like zooplanktons? Yes, they are also there floating in the water, and some at the bank where the water is not flowing, that not have that much velocity. The rocks are there. Within that rocks and on the top of the rocks you can see algae. The rocks in a river will be always slippery because they contain algae growing on them, and water will be slightly dark at the rock crevices at the end rather than the middle. Why? Because that stagnated water will allow the microorganisms like zooplanktons, larvae, fish larvae, tadpole larvae, all that will be there, and even the small fish, large fish, and top carnivore like crocodiles may also be there in a river, right? So that is a consumers in a river. And then top decomposes like bacteria, fungus, and even the protozoans. And at the bottom of the river there are even the decomposing living organisms like snails, shells, and all that will be, crabs and shrimps, all that will also be there. So that is an river and stream ecosystem. The only difference between the two ecosystems is here the water will be stagnant, but most of the living beings are floating. Here the water is flowing, so most of the living beings has to sustain the flowing velocity or shear force of water, and they have to acquire to flow along with the river and grow, right? That's the difference. And next is marine and desert ecosystem. We will discuss that in the next class, and then I will give you assignment even in the next class. Till then I will take leave, and as time is up, let me check what's the time. Yeah, whatever, we have enough time, we can still go to the next topic also. Marine ecosystem, right? What is marine ecosystem? What are biotic structure of a marine ecosystem? Biotic and abiotic. Abiotic, same thing, my dear. Climatic factors like wind, sound, cloud cover, sunlight, uh, all that are exposed, I mean present over there. And then abiotic edaphic factors like soil will be there, sandy soil will be mostly there, right? At the grass, sea grass is there. Then yeah, that is produces, okay. So grass, so minerals and salts in the water, that is why it is saline. And rocks and boulders, all that will be there. So abiotic factors are there. How about biotic factors? What are the producers? Producers are algae is there, phytoplanktons, aquatic plants, and even seagrass. Seagrass is one of the most important factor because it is the one which generates huge amount of oxygen in the environment. The oxygen what we breathe comes from the trees, but out of that, good amount of oxygen comes from the ocean, that is from the seagrass. That converts good CO2 into oxygen, my dear. So seagrass is also one of the important factor. Nowadays, because of the water pollution in the ocean, the seagrass is getting affected and it is getting decreased. That is not good sign, right? So that is aquatic producers. And then consumers, right? Even the small zooplanktons and the microorganisms like bacteria, protozoans will also be there. And then secondary consumers like algae larvae and small fish larvae and insect larvae will be there, and tadpoles will be there, and even the higher fishes are also there. And then the large fish top carnivore like whales, shark, crocodiles, all that will be there. Then the decomposers, there are a very good number of decomposers are there in the oceans and seas like bacteria, fungus, sea stars, and sea, what we say, squid, shrimps, snails, all these many are decomposing material. Living beings will also be there in a marine ecosystem. Similarly, the desert ecosystem, right? The desert ecosystem, even this contains produce the abiotic components like climatic factors, and even edaphic sand, water, minerals in the sand, right? And produces, the plants will be there, but we call them as xerophytic plants, which rarely grow and very less number is available. The life in the desert is very less compared to the life in the other part of the ecosystem, other type of ecosystem. So here only the cactus, I mean the plants which modify themselves to suit that kind of environment will grow more, like aloe vera and other cactus trees. And then the primary producers are that, and then secondary consumers are like herbivores will also be there, like rats and other insects which feed on the plants. And then primary consumers will also be there, fox, jackal, snake, lizard, scorpion, right? And the other insects, right, which are adopted to grow in that condition. And even the top carnivores like hawks, right, will also be there in that. And the only difference here is plants have modified them to remove the leaves and turn them into thorns, and which protects the water and plant from the enemies. And similarly, animals have turned into the qualities and modified themselves to sustain this extreme hot conditions of the deserts by removing the sweat glands. Those animals which live in the deserts doesn't have sweat glands and they can sustain. So all that different levels of food trophic level, that is primary consumers and secondary, tertiary, and quaternary consumers will also be there, along with the decomposers like bacteria, fungus definitely will be there. In even the insects will be there, which are final decomposers, and vultures and hawk and other decomposers will also be there. So this is how all the structures are available even in the desert, but less number. The number of variety of living beings will be less because they sustenance is difficult over there, right? So this is structure of water and terrestrial and desert ecosystem. With this, we have completed the second unit. If you have any doubts, you can raise from first and second unit. Right, I will give you assignment question. I will put the slide on the desk, I mean on the, here, and you people can take down the assignment questions. Right. You people can take down the assignment also. So this is syllabus. First unit is the syllabus for, yeah. If you have any doubts, students, are you there with me? You can hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
Right. So this is first assignment questions. You just take a screenshot of this or a make note of these questions and submit after your internal examination. I won't disturb you while you prepare yourself for internal examination. You can submit the assignment after, but try to write it before internal. It becomes a practice for you how to write the answers and all that. So we have done with all the topics of the first two units, and you are ready for the first internal exam, which will be in the next, conducted in the next week, first internal examination, right? So if you have done with your attendance, assignment writing, I will take the attendance. Okay, I will wait for some time, and I will put this assignment even in that Google Classroom also. Don't worry about it. But right now, you take a snapshot of these questions and make write them clearly, detailed, right? Detailed information should be there, not cut short and small information, right? And submit it in the Google Classroom after your first internal, or we should say uh, within the first week of July. That is 1, 2, what would be that?